Oh, hello. Third day with the Bard. Listen, I'm here at a Mormon church waiting for sacrament meeting to come out. And anyone who's still alive, I'm going to interview. And I'm doing this because BYU, my alma mater, anyway, I have a degree from Brigham Young University. And in that degree, I had to take some statistics class, and I have a master's degree, two of them. And when you have a master's degree, you better have some original research and know a little bit about statistics. And I do, and I'm not ashamed of that. I do know statistics fairly well. And I've heard people, stupid people, say statistics can show anything. Well, yes and no. Now, what I'm going to give you today is not just crap. The Mormon Church does surveys all the time, and the Republicans in the Mormon Church do surveys all the time, and they'll report things that the surveys say are true but are not true. Now let me tell you how they do this, okay? The first thing in statistics is the N like in Nancy. N equals how many people are in the study. Now, if your N is 1, your grandma, whatever comes out of that statistical study is shit. It's shit. 1 is not an N large enough to reflect a population of objective and random. There's the important word in statistics, random. So here's what the Mormon Church does. What I'm doing today. I'm going to interview the Mormons coming out of sacrament meeting, and I'm going to ask them just one question. It's a simple question. Do you think the Mormon Church is a good thing? And I'm going to interview probably, I don't know, I'll be here long enough to interview 200 or 300. Well, 200 or 300 is a good enough end. That's an end that should give me some good statistics. Now here's the problem, folks. It's not random. It's only Mormons that are doing the interview. And their answers are all going to be what we call skewed. Skewed means it leans one way or the other way on a bell-shaped curve. So here's what I have for you. The state of Utah and many of its morons that run the country, that run the state, are coming up with a new idea to hate gays. Leave it to the Mormons. They're going to find a new way to do it. So they're talking about not letting the Mormon Church perform any marriages, and that makes them able now to keep the blacks out of the temple and out of the sealing ceremony of the Mormon Church. It doesn't. I'm old, and I'm stupid. I know that ain't going to work. The first couple that takes that to the Supreme Court, the Supreme Court is going to knock it right down and say, look, you have a choice. You either put away your 501(c) nonprofit status and just operate on your own. Hell, you can do whatever you want. But you can't take or not give federal monies to the American government and keep the blacks or the gays or anyone else out of your temples. They have to be able to be treated equally. So anyway, they are now laying the groundwork. They're building a temple on a turd. The first rain. There they go, all together. So anyway, I have a link down below where the morons that are elected did a study. Now that's okay. Mitt Romney ought to listen to this tape because that's why he lost the presidency. The Mormons don't understand real polls. They don't. And he lost the presidency because they thought he was going to win because they were talking to Mormons only. A little bit of an exaggeration, but the principle is true. So they did a study, and they took a poll. Now, where is the randomness, okay? They went to the voter registration list, okay? Now, in Utah, probably 70 to 80% of the registered voters are Republicans. And Republicans hate gay people. So you could have done 10,000 people off of the register of the voters list in Utah. You'd come up with the same answer. 63%, 64% don't want gays, they hate gays, they think that the church ought to be independent, etc. So they feed that back out into their newspaper, if you want to call it that, the Deseret Rag. It's the PR arm of the Mormon church. It's not a real newspaper, never has been, never will be. And everyone is looking in Utah at this new poll. Yeah, see, they all believe the way we do. Yeah, they're all... So when I do my survey today, and I'm going to say, you know, to the Mormons, do you think the Mormon church is a good thing? They're all going to probably say yes. There might be one or two that are in there to tell the truth. No, but I got to be here. My wife's still in the church. Anyway, my statistics are already predicted. They're not random. My poll will show that most people in a certain state or country or county believe the Mormon church is a good thing, because I have manipulated the N and the R, which is the N is the largeness of the group and R is randomness. Now here's how you do a real statistical report that will pass the muster of reasonably intelligent people. You go to the phone book, okay? And every 15th or 20th name you take down, and then basically you call them. There's a certain amount of randomness in that. Computer will pick. Line up all the people in the state of Utah and then ask the computer to pick 4,000. That's going to be random. That's a good statistical study. The other ways, I forgot what I was going to say. I'll talk to myself. Oh yeah, now shit. Anyway, you have to have randomness, and you have to have N large enough to represent a population. And so, be aware. You are now a statistical expert. Before you read any statistical study or poll, the first thing you go is to the N. Is it just your grandma and your sister? Then you just shake your head, throw that piece of shit in the trash. If the N is 3,000, 4,000, several thousand, then obviously that's excellent. Now, it has to be random. If you go to the African nations with Ebola, and you interview all the Ebola people, and they say, well, you know, you think it's safe to have Ebola come into the United States, they're all going to go, yes, yes. Look at who the people are in the N. Watch out for gender. Women will say certain things. If they're more in the poll, men will say things in this poll. Make it equal, make it equal. If they're racial, make sure there's the blacks. Make sure there's the Hispanics, the Asians, the Indians. I know Native Americans, but I like cowboys and Indians. I always have liked the cowboys. They weren't very nice to the Indians. Anyway. Use your intelligence. You have it, use it. Look at the N, look at the randomness. And if neither one of them meets your scrutiny, you tell that poll they're lying. Now, I've seen the other kind of thing happen, where let's say the randomness is good. Let's say that the N is good. And you read a summary of the poll. Be careful. People lie. I was in the Mormon church for over 50 years. I know. Churches lie. People lie. Okay? Somebody who wants a grant, or somebody who has a vested interest in that poll coming out a certain way, will summarize it. And so, if I go to the Mormon church today and I interview 100 or 1,000 people, and they all say the Mormon church is good, I'll have one or two that say that it's bad. And then I'll summarize my polling article like this. Today we did a poll over at the Mormon church in a certain area, and it's random, and we asked 1,000 Mormons if they thought the Mormon church was good. It's true that most of them did say they thought the Mormon church was true, but it was a significant number that they didn't think it was true, and they wanted us to know that they were trapped in a cult, and they wanted to say, You can spin it any way that you want. Don't let them do that on you. You look at the statistics, you look at the charts, you look at the N, you look at the randomness, and then you decide, what does that poll or statistical study really say? Now, I don't know how they come up with this one. They've had this one for a long time, but they say that the poll is accurate within 1 to 4%. Now, that's not true either. That's not true either, because the accurateness is unpredictable. It could be much wider than that, depending upon the poll and how random and how many N is in there. So let's say that you have a difference of a poll that's split. 50% of the people like the gay people, 50% of the people wish that they were never born. And then it says it has a 4%, and that's large. 4% is large. Usually, randomness study should be 1 or 2%, but the church always uses 4% because they know it's not true. And so if you've got 50 and 50, it could be off. Let's see, 4% would be roughly 5. So it could be 55% versus 45%. That's is that 4% off? Anyway, I have to think about it. You guys are smarter than I am. So just figure it out yourself. If it's off by 4%, then you take a look at the numbers, and it can be 4% either way. So it could be 55% hate or 55% love. So anyway, I've given my statistical talk for the day, but it aggravates me. It aggravates me when I'm down here in Kangaroo City, and you know, I have 4 or 5 kangaroos run through the house, and then the Mormon paper says that there were 4,000. And they didn't have any names, and you couldn't see their faces, but they all ran through the house. Well, you know they're lying. That's what they do. I don't know why. I don't know why. But I still have health in the navel, marrow in the bone, strength in the loins and sinews, power and priesthood be upon me and upon my posterity through all generations of time and throughout eternity. Bard's gone.